Hello, my name is Lisa Marie, and welcome to this installment of Reading Recap. Spoiler alert now, I will spoil all of these. If you hear a title that you don't want spoiled, please skip ahead or click off. Any trigger warnings I think of, I'll post in the description below. Jumping right in with number 1, From Here to the Great Unknown by Lisa Marie Presley and Riley Keough. I gave 4 out of 5. Lisa Marie had been working on an autobiography when she passed, so this is a mixture of her entries and add-ons from her daughter Riley. This is definitely one of the better written autobiographies that I've read, but the subject matter is very dark. Lisa Marie is the daughter of Priscilla and Elvis. She was born into trauma, and her story is so sad. Priscilla was groomed at 14 and later married Elvis and had Lisa, but once she was pregnant, he did not want to touch her at all and thought of her as used. After Priscilla had gave him her life, I'm sure that rejection traumatized her, and Lisa absorbed that. As a child, she was Daddy's little girl, obviously heartbroken when he died. She didn't want to be around Priscilla much. Priscilla was with a man who touched Lisa. When she told her mom, Priscilla just made the guy apologize. The guy kept going into her room, though, and would do horrible things that I don't want to say here. Lisa showed her mom bruises, and Priscilla asked what she had done to deserve them. Quite young, Lisa hooked up with an older musician, much like her mama did. She timed her ovulation to trick him into getting her pregnant, which she weirdly admits to. She had Riley and Ben with this man and then divorced. It moves more into her addiction then, and her son Ben's addiction. When Ben was 27, he killed himself, and Riley had to go to the hotel to wake her mother and tell her. They both went to the scene and saw the body. Lisa kept his body in her home for 2 months after his death. Ben had gotten Lisa and Riley tattoos, so after his death, they each got tattoos for him. They didn't have pictures of his tattoos, but wanted the same font, so Lisa told the tattoo artist, "He's in the other room, if you could take a look and figure out the font." And the artist actually looked at the dead body, found the font, and did their tattoos. I would have ran. 3 years later, Lisa Marie died as well. Riley is really respectful of her mother in the book, considering everything. From what's written here, she seems like a fluke in the family and has made it out okay, but I'm unfamiliar with her outside of this. Rating autobiographies is always weird, but I think my 4 is fair. Number 2, A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. I gave 1.5 out of 5. Ugh, I am completely disgusted by this series. It took me 2 months to finish this book, and I'm so glad to be finished with it. There's a ridiculous amount of sex, which I will never agree with detailing so heavily. Even the descriptors in the battle scenes and non-sex scenes were overwhelmingly sexual. We get it, they have sex. This is 768 pages, and maybe 168 of those pages were actually a good book, and the rest was just porn. I'm so annoyed and angry with the state of books right now. This book is focused on Nesta. She self-harms with casual sex, gets close to Cassian, but keeps pushing him away because she doesn't think she deserves him, which honestly, she doesn't. Broken people deserve love, but she is such a bitch. They end up together anyway. Feyre has a baby. They're all staying in a house that's alive, and I actually really enjoy that concept. The house gifts books to Nesta to read. They're mostly smut, but it's a cute gesture. I kept getting so mad that I'd tune out the book and then realize interesting parts were happening again, and I'd get a little lost. Nesta and a few of her friends get abducted to perform some test thing, like hazing, and her abilities cause her to wake before the others, so she gets her friend and gets the hell out of there. On her way out, she throws a knife, stabbing a guy's balls, which I very much appreciated. Someone reviewed this on Goodreads with a detailed page number listing of all of the rape scenes, which is helpful for anyone who needs it. I listened to the audiobook, so I just flicked forward a minute or two every time things were sexual, and sometimes had to do that 10 times in a row to get through the scene. This narrator, too, was performing. I was cringing so hard. She was moaning and gasping and growling. Yep, this book, this author, and this narrator are definitely not for me. It's way too overperformed, which makes me die inside a bit, because it crushes my own imagination down. But there was no way I was going to manually read this series myself, so audiobooks it was. When I read the first Throne of Glass book, I had gone to Target to stock up on this author's books. I bonded with 3 separate women in the store that day over Sarah J. Maas, and I was talking about how much I loved Throne of Glass, and they were talking about this trash series in Crescent City, which I quickly abandoned before getting invested enough to have to finish like I did here. And now I feel like we were bonding under false pretenses, because I hate this author. They seem to love the porn, though. I'm so sad. But anyway. Number 3, The Chemist by Stephenie Meyer. I gave 2 out of 5. Stephenie's attempt at writing adult fiction, but it still feels very YA. The characters are older, so I looked it up and found out not only is this adult fiction, but also the host was? What? The host screams YA. That aside, Alex is a chemist/agent. She tortures people for information, and her next target, Daniel, is a cutie. She meets him on public transit, he asks her out, and she's all bubbly and thinks, oh my gosh, why am I crushing on him? I have work to do. She drugs him and tortures him. He recognizes her as the woman he asked out, and she finds out that he doesn't know anything she needs. She runs off with him and his brother Trevor. Trevor is sane and doesn't want this woman who drugged and tortured his brother around, but Daniel has his heart-shaped glasses on her and falls in love, because of course he does. Falling for your captor or abuser is messed up, but I can understand it if it's written well, but she's just constantly rude, and after she tortured him, he made her dinner and said it was for the date that they were supposed to have before she drugged and tortured him. He darts in for a kiss and she's like, what the fuck? And he gets mad. I hate angry rejection reactions. He starts blaming her, saying, what did you think we were doing here? I made you dinner and I'm always touching on you. That killed their relationship potential for me. She doesn't owe him anything for him pushing himself on her, and he needs to back off. But nope, these two end up together with zero chemistry or any build-up. It's just a thing that is for no reason at all. They're constantly running, and Daniel's stupid and goes to town walking around, showing his face when they're all in hiding, but he wants food for his date that shouldn't be happening. The adult writing feels very preteen, the relationship has no chemistry, then her, the chemist, she's always thinking about math, science, and logic, but the way she thinks about it feels very Disney Channel. Very cheesy and very unbelievable. They use dogs as weapons, which ends very badly and is unforgivable. This came out 9 years ago, and Stephenie Meyer hasn't wrote anything outside her different versions of Twilight since, and I think that's fine. This is not good, and even though Twilight was such a moment for me as a teen, her writing is very rambly and holds no emotion. Number 4, The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I gave 3.5 out of 5. I was initially avoiding this book because from the title I assumed it was an affair that happened 7 years into marriage, but upon reading the author's other work and enjoying it, I took the time to actually read the synopsis, and I was wrong, thankfully, because I ended up enjoying this. Clementine travels the world a lot to see her aunt. 1 year after a breakup, her aunt packs her bags and says let's go, and they see the world, it becoming a tradition every August. Later, her aunt dies and leaves her apartment to her. She wakes up to a man, Ewan, in her apartment, after he had gotten permission from her aunt recently to stay there. The apartment travels in time 7 years in the past or 7 years in the future. I might mix up the past and future a bit, so I'll try to refrain from being too time specific. I'm also going to say things in the order that makes sense to me and not the order they are in the book, starting with something you find out towards the end. The two technically meet when they share a cab one day, but they don't see each other again until 7 years later when they share the apartment for a while and fall in love. Her aunt had told her about her lover that she had met in the apartment and had explained that it doesn't work since the timing is off and for her not to do the same. Clementine disregards her aunt's warnings and falls for Ewan, only she can't control when the apartment takes her to. 7 years in the future, he's a chef, opening his own restaurant and publishing a book. She works at a publishing firm that is desperate to buy his book. I kind of felt icky hearing how much this entire company relied on the book that this man created. Having a business that entirely relies on other people's passions feels scummy to me and is sad for everyone involved. I get that they can help spread the book to more people, but it still feels dirty. Like they're leeches begging for the pennies he can earn them. He declines the publishing offer from the one she works with, and later he assumed she wouldn't want him there. She works hard to get his book deal. They had lost contact since they were staying at the apartment together and now had to relearn each other. At some point, she tells him in the apartment era about the time jumps, and in the present, she doesn't know this current him, so she jumps back in time to be in love with him in the past, and him in the future teases her about the hickeys he can currently see on her that his past self gave her 7 years ago. What a trip. It feels like cheating almost, but not really, because they're all versions of themselves, but they're basically strangers in the future part. I don't know. If my ex came up to me now and was teasing me about having sex with them like 10 years ago, I would be deeply disturbed and it would feel violating. Eventually, she breaks things off when she tells apartment era him about the time jumps, and then she falls for the future him so they can be together now. I like the odd twists that Ashley Poston puts in her books, so that made this fun. I don't like that when they share the apartment, she blurts out that she's not going to have sex with him, and he says, "Oh no, of course not," and immediately afterwards he tells her that they're both adults who should share the bed. No one needs to sleep on the couch, but then also insists on sleeping shirtless, and they do, not right away, but eventually, have sex. The no, but then yes is a dangerous trope that I don't like, and also the offended, "you'd think I'd want sex from you, but then have sex with you anyway," is so gaslighty and frustrating. I did enjoy this overall, though. A fun way for the right person, wrong time idea. Number 5, The Help by Kathryn Stockett. I gave 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed this book. It held my attention well, but it was really hard for me to keep track of whose perspective we were in. It switched often, and I was listening to the audiobook and it wouldn't announce the change. So for most of the book, I thought everyone was Minnie and Celia, which made things confusing, but I figured out the gist of things in the end. This takes place in Mississippi, where racism is still strong. Colored women are working for little pay as housemaids for the white people, raising their kids themselves, yet they aren't even supposed to use the same bathrooms since the white people think they carry diseases. Funny, considering that's who cooks for them. Skeeter. Why are writers always named Skeeter? She starts writing an anonymous book on how the help are treated in Mississippi, only they changed the location for the book. Minnie is a wild card and no one wants to hire her anymore, so she gets pawned off to Celia, who no one wants to accept into the community. Celia wants to be the perfect housewife, so she has Minnie do everything and sometimes teach her some things so she can pretend to her husband that she did it herself. She's not like the other white people. She even sits at the table and eats with Minnie. Her husband catches on and tells Minnie to keep on pretending that he doesn't know. Their household storyline is so sweet. Celia keeps miscarrying, and that's why she's trying so hard with everything else. Her husband is kind and loves her anyway, and they both tell Minnie they never want her to leave. The other housemaids have it much worse. They're constantly accused of stealing, they have toilets and garages made for them, they have to eat outside, and they always have to smile and agree when they're told racist things. Aibileen helps Skeeter get more maids to tell their stories for her book, which she eventually gets published, but the town figures out that it's about them and start firing the maids. Skeeter gets a good job opportunity out of town, and they all tell her she better take it, so she does. Skeeter tells them they're getting a second run of the book and they'll get paid some more money soon. Minnie's been getting beat by her husband, and she takes the opportunity to get out of his house and save herself and her kids. Aibileen gets fired and tells the little girl she's been raising that she's kind, she's special, and important, and I cried. Before Skeeter leaves, her boyfriend proposes, and she says yes, but that she has to tell him something first, so she tells him about the book. He takes back the proposal, but promises to keep her secret. It's a sad book that shows how a lot of sacrifices are often made to make change, which is so unfortunate but true. I feel a bit weird hearing this from a white author, but I also feel like the authors should have freedom to write from different perspectives. She just gives the colored characters broken English for dialogue and throws in a lot of to the point that it almost feels like a caricature. Number 6, Little Weirds by Jenny Slate. I gave 3 out of 5. I'm not sure what this is supposed to be. It's kind of memoir-esque in the form of somewhat poetic short stories. I did really enjoy parts of this. Parts were pleasantly, as the title says, little weirds. There are too many bad animal parts for me to give it a higher rating, though. Number 7, Life Form by Jenny Slate. I gave 3.5 out of 5. Another book by Jenny. This is similar to Little Weirds, only this one is more focused during her pregnancy. The way she tells stories is kooky, and I enjoy it. I definitely recommend the audiobook version on this. Jenny reads it herself and has a screaming rant about Ghostbusters. I relate to a lot of this, but is she okay? She put a few more bad mentions of animals here, but other than that, I really enjoy it and I think it's worth a read or a listen. Number 8, Over the Influence, a memoir by Joanna Jojo Levesque. I gave 2.5 out of 5. Jojo's biography. I mostly knew Jojo as an actress from Aquamarine and RV. I only really knew her musically from the song Leave, Get Out. Here she tells her story, and it's mostly a passion for music. She started very young and recorded Leave when she was 12 and did the music video at 13, which is hilarious considering the subject matter. Her team put her in a couple movies and then froze her career. For years, her voice was owned and she was musically caged. She managed to break free of the contract, but immediately jumped into a new one where she was allowed to put out music now, but not what she wanted. Later, she eventually got out of that and now gets to do what she wants. She did a stint on Broadway and has found more creative freedom these days. The other aspect of this book is her love and sex life. Her team set her up with a teen athlete when she was 14 who she lost her virginity to. Your body, your choice, but it makes me so damn sad when people lose their virginities so young. You have so much time for that later in life. Just be a kid. The guy ends up cheating on her, and she gets another boyfriend and she cheats on him, which goes to show how cheating breeds cheating. Just don't do it. You're risking the life of your partner, even with condoms, and you're damaging the entire world when you mess up their trust and they become a cheater and they make another cheater and so on. Don't add to the cycle. Shoot over a quick text even. There's no excuse to cheat. With her second partner, she starts meeting up and kissing another guy and says she's young, so kissing's no big deal. No. Kissing is a big deal when you've agreed to be in a monogamous relationship. She ends up getting wasted, blacking out, and the guy she's been kissing essentially rapes her. She doesn't phrase it like that, but that's what it is. Drunken consent isn't consent, and she has zero recollection of the incident. She just woke up naked and found a used condom. I feel for her a lot there. That part's not her fault at all, but the kissing and flirting and meeting up were her choices in cheating on her part. She dates a weird older guru guy who also cheats on her. Then she dates someone and cheats on him. She dates her best friend and cheats on him too. Not only ruining their relationship, but also ruining their friendship. Another guy swoops in, all too good to be true. They get engaged, and then he cheats on her, and she breaks up with him. Oh my God. Where is the monogamy? If you can't do monogamy, don't agree to it. This book wasn't terrible. It's nice hearing her story, but it's hard for me to look past condoning sex so young and cheating, the constant cheating. I wish she had reflected on how she was trying to grow up too fast and how it affected her as an adult and the true dangers of cheating. She didn't even tell one partner for over a month. She could have transferred STDs to him without knowing. He was consenting to a closed sexual relationship, not the dangers of multiple sex partners, which is sexual assault in itself. It's just fucked up, and it would have been nice to feel her take more accountability. I hope she's well in life now and never cheats or gets cheated on again. Number 9, Odd Birds by Ian Harding. I gave 3.5 out of 5. Ian Harding, America's favorite pedophile. Ian played Ezra, a high school teacher who dates his student, and fans were uncomfortably into it on Pretty Little Liars. This is like a memoir light. Some short stories of Ian's mixed in with some facts about birds, something he is very passionate about. He makes light of and jokes that he basically played a pedophile, and I enjoyed his humor throughout the book. He wrote this just before finishing up the show. There's some little behind-the-scenes stories, such as auditioning, Ashley's tradition of hitting his balls most days, and Shay stealing his mini fridge. There's other stories of him with his family and friends. I learned a lot about him in such a short book. He tied in most of his stories with stories about birds, which made this feel unique. It's definitely a fun read, and I'd recommend it to anyone, even if you don't know who he is or the show. It feels like stories with a friend. I've definitely said that before when reading memoirs, but here especially, with some bird facts thrown in. I'd rate it higher, but there are a lot of mentions of hurt and dead animals. Not by his hand, but I still don't enjoy hearing about it, so be warned on that front. Number 10, Welcome to the Hyunam Bookshop by Hwang Reum. I gave 1.5 out of 5. This book doesn't have much of a plot at all. Reminds me of the movie The Taste of Things that was literally just 2 hours of walking around a kitchen, cooking and eating. This is like that, but instead with working at a bookstore/cafe. There's an entire chapter on the coffee beans and roasting process. I was so incredibly bored. The synopsis had said a woman was going through a divorce and came here to work and move forward in life. I thought it was going to be about that and personal, but I only got that information from the back. I don't even remember it being brought up in the book because my brain was melting from information about coffee beans and customers who order one coffee every 3 hours to not be a nuisance. This book is not my cup of extremely detailed coffee. I don't fully not recommend it, though, just because I could see someone wanting something extremely bland and enjoying this. I just didn't. That's all for today. Happy reading.